The living quarters at 221B Baker Street were slowly drifting like the seasonal snow into a state of decay. What had once been a proud Sheraton bookcase, full of every important tome from Plato's Republic through to George Eliot's Horace Goes Skiing, was now nothing more than a mausoleum. Spines were broken and stitching was torn, reminding me of darker times when I was still a practicing medico. The bureau itself was overrun by the silken study of 100 spiders and an Arabian climbing emu, run mad by its rapid and unwarranted education in the matters of history, philosophy, and religion. Such a mournful face I had never seen before, except for that of Holmes at the windowsill, or windowsill, as they were now being called by the younger generation. I would hate to see the look on Thomas Sheraton's face were he to see what has happened to one of his signature bookcases, I began. He was no lover of spiders, and nor am I.
I, too, would hate to see the look on his face, since he has been dead some 80 years.
You know full well what I meant, Holmes. It would take your mind off you-know-who, I suggested. Holmes finally moved away from the glass and picked up the forlorn emu. He whispered in its ear.
Try Kant's critique of practical reason. It may help make sense of things.
He sat the bird next to the work, and then firmly booted them both out into the hallway.
Friend Watson, the only thing that can lift me at this moment would be...
I know some kittens, I interjected.
I was going to say a case.
A case of kittens? Holmes, that's preposterous. Where would we put...
No, Watson.
He cut me short.
A case. A test for my skills. Some criminal of quality and intent. For too long my services have been sought for the pursuance of the most feeble of felons. Forgers, blaggers, dridders, futtergripes, westweckers, and malevolents. Not a single member of the criminal intelligentsia among them. My mind requires... No, demands an investigation worthy of your blasted journal.
He paused dramatically. For some 38 minutes, I had time to polish a new pair of earwings before...
A new case, Watson. That is what I need. Has there, perchance, been a robbery at the Cattery?
No. Our increasingly rum conversation was abortively drawn to a close by a solid rapping on the front door, much to my relief. The all-too-common sound of dear Mrs. Hudson robustly confabulating with a visitor rose up the staircase. I hoped greatly that this clamour was the precursor to some investigation that would take my friend's mind off thoughts of large bearded men coming down his chimney. Even at Christmas, the criminal classes do not sleep. As I have recorded in my previous journals, Holmes can often be found chasing after a number of mysteries, when he should be tucking into a bowl of chestnuts and a glass of port and tomatoes in front of the hearth. Even now, I recall the case of the haunted eyelash, the brass onion affair, and the one where Ross and Rachel get married. The door to the room burst open like a badly stitched wound, and a most dishevelled creature stood framed within. Holmes remained seated, his hands clasped together under his chin, barely flinching at this astonishing picture. The man, for that much was obvious, wore a slate-grey frock coat down to his shins. Extravagant suede boots poked from underneath, although they had seen better days. His hat was in the German fashion, tri-cornered and smeared in clotted cream, the tragic carcasses of inquisitive insects littering the brow. But his face, that face, bulging eyes, sunken cheeks, and a moustache and beard that were in the German fashion, triangular and smeared in clotted cream. The face had a voice.
Sherlock Holmes?
It said, looking between myself and my colleague. Holmes nodded.
Thank God. Thank God. I have heard you are the only man in Europe who can help a poor wretch such as myself, and the devilish misfortune that has befallen me.
Please, take a seat.
Holmes offered.
And I will not suffer your self-deprecation. As a poor wretch, you are a complete failure, since I understand you to be none other than the King of Poland.
Both I and our guest turned to Holmes in amazement.
How on earth could you possibly know that, Monsieur Holmes? Am I already found out? Are you perchance some part of the plot against me? Alas and alack! I have flown from the clutches of the spider and run straight into its web.
Holmes sat forward, his palms raised but held flat in order to placate our visitor.
I assure you, Your Highness, that I am on your side, as long as yours is the side of good. And from what I have read of you in journals, I am assured that this is the case.
The king relaxed a little in his chair.
As for how I know you to be Ludovich III of Poland, it is quite obvious to the trained eye. Firstly, your boots are stained red, an old stain, of a colour and texture that could only possibly be produced by a clay soil found in the wooded areas on the outskirts of the city of Krakow, where I believe the winter retreat of the Polish royal family to be.
The king nodded.
Secondly, Poland is not a rich country, and yet here you are dressed in the high German fashion. A well-dressed Pole who can afford to travel to London? To me, this suggests aristocracy.
But how did you know he was the king? I interjected.
Because thirdly,
And he turned sharply towards his highness at this moment.
you made an appointment yesterday.
Oh, yes.